All right. Take it away.
All right. Let me pull up my presenter view here. All right. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining. Um, some of you may already know me from a lot of our training videos that I've been doing for 4-H Online 2.0. Some of you may have not had a chance to sit in on a single one of them, and that's totally fine. For this session, I'm going to be going over just a lot of question and answer type um, concerns and thoughts that have come up since we started the training process. And some of this, like I say, might be review for some of you, and some of it might be completely new. I do ask that we hold questions until the very, very end so that I can get through all of the ones in the presentation. And then if you have questions related to any of the ones I already went over, we can go back to them. Or if you have other ones that I didn't cover and you have, I can get those at the end as well. All right, so an overview about this. Why are we switching to a new system? So those of you familiar with already using 4-H Online 1.0, we have been using that system since 2013, and it's very outdated. It's clunky. It's not super intuitive. It's just kind of not well built, but it was probably well built in 2013. It's just it hasn't caught up with the times, I guess. So we're moving on to 4-H Online 2.0, and it's basically just an upgraded version of our current system. There's some new features. It's a lot more, I guess, app-like in its intuitive nature. So a lot of pop-ups and sort of step-by-step things that the system takes you through rather than having to sort of guess what you need to do next. It's a lot easier for families. I know a big concern is this is going to be new for the families. This is going to be scary. It's going to be, oh, my families are going to, their minds are going to blow. Sometimes change requires, thinking about things in just a different way, a more positive way. So I like to say that this 4-H Online 2.0 system is really the same as 1.0. If you can liken it to a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So there's still bread, there's still jelly. We're just using crunchy peanut butter now instead of, creamy peanut butter. It's all the same stuff. We're just, tweaking one of the ingredients. So keep it light, keep it happy. Try not to scare your families because they're going to feed off of what you give to them. And really, it truly really is easier for families. And a lot of other states have already migrated onto the new system and have had a lot of success. I haven't really heard anything negative from any of the states that have migrated over already. And we are one of the last states to do so for the program year. Speaking of the program year, most of you, if you've been listening in, already know that the program year has changed. So rather than our program year ending on September 30th and then rolling over on October 1st, our new program year will start on November 1st. And this is going to allow us to have everything done in the current 1.0 system so that we can move everything over all at once into the 2.0 system. It also helps kind of allow those fairs that happen after September 30th to be included into the current program year's activities. I know that was always a problem for counties like Fairfield, who had to pretty much download everything that they thought they might need because everybody would go inactive in the system prior to their fair. So trying to accommodate some of that. All right. So just some general Q&A about just like the system and some sort of program related things. So one of the big questions is paper enrollments. So in the past, counties have had an option to sort of enroll members in a variety of ways. Some counties would have club volunteers do the enrollment, some counties online, some counties would have families do the enrollment online. There's still a handful of counties that do paper enrollments. And with this new system, for the most part, we will not be doing paper enrollments. Now, I know there's going to be a few counties that still have issues with internet connectivity. They don't have, a lot of their members don't have access to internet. Maybe there's other special considerations with some families who are, you know, I don't know, technologically challenged or otherwise. You know, I'm sure there's going to be, you know, special cases, but the idea is that all families are in charge of their own online enrollment. We're trying to have it set so that the counties who currently use the feature to do paper enrollments through the office for first year members, just to kind of cut down on confusion of the program as a whole. I'm trying to see if we can get that to follow through with 2.0. I just haven't heard back from the developers about that. But, you know, far and wide, enrollments are to be done online by the family. So no more club volunteers doing it for them, no more paper enrollment forms. If you do have a paper enrollment form, that needs to be uploaded into the system for that individual person so that all the documentation is present within the member's profile. The system also no longer allows for like the consent received on, and then who received it sort of situation when it comes to paper consent forms. So for those of you who do have to do the paper enrollment way, when you go to put those enrollments into the system, is my cursor showing up, Lydia, over here?
Yeah.
Okay. So right here, it'll say manager name certifying paper consent. You have to put your name in here and affirm, saying that you were the one that got the paperwork and you're certifying that basically, you know, the consent was received. These consents still need to be uploaded into the member's profile as well, just so that anybody that needs to check on those, whether it's at the state office or for a camp or something, has proof in an instant that that was done. You cannot bypass this like you could in the last in 1.0. This cannot be bypassed to complete the rest of the enrollment process. All right, so how do we add mock families into the training environment or into 4HOnline 2.0 when it goes live? So there's a little button when you're in the portal under the member search area here. There's a button in the upper right hand corner that says create family. So for those of you who do have to do this for a member, that is where you would go to start that process. And you're going to create the family just like you would have created it in 1.0. It asks for all the same information, same concept. It's just a little easier to get through all the steps. And then if you need to add mock members into the training database or add new members to those families after you add them when we go live, you go within the family member list, similar to 1.0, and you use this button right here to add a member. And then it'll take you through that member's enrollment process. Another question that I get a lot is there some sort of app for this, since you said it was mobile friendly? So there's not an app, but if families go through on like a tablet or a smartphone or some other non-computer device, the layout of the page will customize itself or shrink it or change the font sizes to show up on whatever device you're using. And in 1.0, things wouldn't show up. There wouldn't be options. You'd have to scroll and scroll and scroll. And when members were having trouble enrolling or picking projects or looking at their family's information, a lot of times it was because they were trying to do it on a cell phone and the functionality just was not there. So that's one good thing about the new system, is that you can use it on a mobile device. It just isn't an app. It runs through your browser on your device. All right, let's see here. Do members have to have the option to participate? Do members have the option to participate without joining? Camps, for example. So some counties allow participants who are not enrolled in 4-H to come to camps. Maybe it's a sibling of one of the campers or a cousin or something. Maybe you have other programs that also allow non-members to attend. They would have, there's two options here. There's the, I want to join as the new or returning 4-H member. And then there's, I want to participate in a 4-H activity, but I do not want to join 4-H at this time. So depending on, in this enrollment process, if they just want to go and participate in the camp per se, and the county is asking that they go through and put their information into the system so that they can go to camp, they would choose, I want to participate, but I don't want to join right now. And then if it's a regular member, either a new member or a returning member, they would choose that I want to join as a new or returning 4-H member. So they have the option now. I get a lot of questions about, why doesn't my data manager login work? Why doesn't it work? What's going on with it? That's not phrased right. Why doesn't my data manager login not work? That's not phrased right. But if you have a current password in 1.0, it should let you into 2.0 using the same username and password. So your OSU email and then your password. However, if your current password doesn't meet 2.0's password standard, it'll tell you that it doesn't work, and it'll make you reset a password. And families log in the exact same way that we do. So they would put in whatever information that they normally put in for their login. If it doesn't work, it'll prompt them to change their password. Now, for members who have always been on paper and have never, ever managed their own accounts in 4HOnline, they would not know what their password is. So for those counties who have never before had families do this on their own, they're basically you're just basically going to say, have them hit reset password right here. And what it will do is it will bring up a way for them to reset their password for them to choose it on their own. So they'll put in their email address, which that's probably what they put on their paper enrollment forms as a way to contact them anyways. And then they would choose reset password. It'll email them the prompt to change it, and then they can just go ahead and make their own password and then log back in with that information. So about new families. So when they are logging in, if they have never ever logged in before, they're going to use this don't have an account link right here on the login page. And what it will do is it will ask you for your state. They'll choose Ohio. You have to select an institution. In this case, it's Ohio 4-H Youth Development. And then it will prompt you to choose your county and then start filling in like your new family information. It's pretty straightforward, asks real simple questions. It shouldn't confuse too many people. Will 2.0 recognize if youth try to enroll with a new profile if they already have an existing profile in the system? So yes, it is set to recognize if they put in a duplicated physical address, email address, or phone number. And if the system identifies that, it will send up a notification that asks them in real time if they want to validate their information or retrieve their account from somewhere else. Perhaps they didn't realize it was already in there and they can just go retrieve it from the notification that pops up. Now, I did have a couple people ask, what if there's multiple families who all live at the exact same address and are in the system now as two separate families sharing 123 Main Street, Town, Ohio? I'm working with the developer to figure out the best way to go about doing that, whether that's making it one giant family and then adding all the members that live at that household into it, or just letting it be a duplicate. The version 2 of this database is set up to try to sort of eliminate that duplication issue that I know a lot of us have come across when new families decide to make a new account returning families decide to make a new account every single year, even though they're already in the system. So it's just kind of designed to help cut down on some of those problems, but I do recognize that it has its own fault when it comes to families who share the same addresses, and I'm working on that to try to get that resolved. All right, we're going to move on to enrollment questions that I get a lot of. So currently in 1.0, families cannot add new adults, and that has to be done through the office. In 2.0, adults, Cloverbuds, and youth members can all be added by the family. So when a new family is created and that add member button, when the families go through and start adding members, they can choose really any of those roles to add in, and it's all just kind of based off of the age of the person that you put in. Now, all the questions are the same as far as, the reg data goes. Do you have a military affiliation? All that's the same. There's still consents that the adults have to fill out and can't bypass. The only other thing that's different is that they're subject to background check approval. And if they're new, they have to go through the background screening process, which is a series of questions that are now within 2.0. And yes, adults really are required to add an emergency contact. I know a lot of people think that that's kind of silly, like why should a grown person have to do this? Just in case, it's a requirement. The system has an emergency contact requirement for everyone, just as a matter of caution. Another question, are members still selecting project books and materials as a way for counties to pull reports on that information, to know what project books need ordered, what resource manuals need ordered, etc.? The system is not set up to provide that anymore, which I know is a problem for a lot of counties here in Ohio. I did speak with the developer about this, and there's a few states, very few states, Ohio being one of them, that really utilized that feature in 1.0. Most states never really utilized the feature of being able to choose project books and materials. It just never was really utilized. So the few states of us that did utilize that kind of got the short end of the stick, and it wasn't built into 2.0. They did mention that is something that can, maybe they can work on later. Right now, they're still trying to kind of focus on the nuts and bolts of the system, as a base system. But things like this are definitely on their list of possible functionality additions. During enrollment, are members prompted with project-specific consents? Yes. So before, we would have the county offices collect these consents on their own. Now we are requiring the members to complete those project consents as soon as they try to choose one of those projects during enrollment. So all horse, dog, and shooting sports projects have consent forms that are identical to the ones that are hard copy. All the verbiage is the same. And they have to agree to those consents before the system will let them enroll in that particular project. We are also working on having one for ATV and tractor projects, but it's still hanging out with OSU legal. So when we get that back, I will add that project consent in as well. If forms or documents are downloaded into a member's profile, do they have to be re-entered every single year? Yes, forms do not remain in the system perpetually. So forms are only good for one program year. They need to be re-added for each new enrollment cycle. I get this question a lot. What about the animals tab? What about the animals tab? What about the animals tab? Yes, we will have an animals tab. It's not been released yet. They're still working on it. But we will have an animals tab that will let you enter animal information, just like in 1.0. So yes, it's coming. It's just not turned on yet. But as soon as it is turned on and ready to go, I'll offer a training just on the animals tab. All right, some other random questions that I have received. And then once I get through these, I'll kind of let you guys sort of ask your questions and sort of talk through some of the, maybe problems that you're having with 1.0 that you have a question about for how it might work in 2.0. So how are we handling management of FFA kids? So we are no longer putting FFA kids who are solely in FFA into the 4HOnline system. We are going to be piloting for this program year an FFA module that looks very similar to the 4-H module that I've just been showing you screens of and have been doing the trainings on. But they are two separate databases that sort of hang out in this same overall skeleton. And all of our FFA members need to go in the FFA portal. All of our 4-H members need to go in our 4-H portal. If we have kids that are 4-H members, but are also FFA members, they will have a profile in each section. The reason we're doing this is because we need to be able to sort out what kids are taking what projects through which program. I know a lot of counties need to know for pen assignments or weigh-in information. They need to know exactly how many steers are going to show up. So you would search, you'd run a report in the 4-H portal, find out how many kids are having steer projects there, and then look to see in the FFA portal what other kids are bringing steers through FFA. And then from there, you'll get your total number of steers that you'll need to be working with. This is just to keep the FFA kids and the 4-H kids from commingling all of their information and giving us incorrect program counts and project counts. That is a big problem that we've had in the past. And this is how we're going to sort everything out. Another random question. What checks are in place to confirm that the volunteer has met the required volunteer process? There aren't any. So counties are responsible for ensuring that their volunteers have completed all the parts of the volunteer process. So if you have individual trainings that you require your volunteers to take outside of 1.50, that's something that you have to take care of. There's not anything in our system that is universal outside of 1.50 that needs to be completed. Now I am going to put in the 1.50 training, but it is not going to have a training module assigned to it. It will show up in trainings so that when you go through and mark all of your volunteers who took 1.50 and completed it through the other portal, I want to say that you guys are doing that maybe in Carmen now, or Canvas. You'll have to go in and mark that they completed 1.50 in their profiles, and they can get their certificates that way. But there's not an actual 1.50 module that they're going to be completing within the database. So aside from that, there are no other trainings, save for quality assurance, that are going to be in 2.0. Can we edit the list of schools? I know some of them are outdated, some of them that have recently been built since the 2013 version 1.0 was released. I was told that I would have the option to do that eventually, where I can go in and update all the schools. That has not been given to me yet. So right now the schools all look the same. So kids might not see their list or their school on the list, and they'll have to manually enter it in. Some kids will wonder why there's schools still showing up that have been closed down for 4 years. That's just how it is for right now. We'll change it when we are given the ability to. What is coming over from 1.0? Anything with an enrollment history is coming over. So any profile, whether it was an adult profile or a youth profile, whether it was archived and it's inactive or it's active, they're all coming over. Anything that any profile that at any given time since 2013 has had any enrollment whatsoever attached to it is going to come over. A contact will only come over if it's in a standalone, if it's in a family. So contacts in a standalone family. So let's say T. McCoy was, she's a contact, but nobody else in her family was ever enrolled. It's just her and her family. There's no enrollment tied to T. McCoy. She's not going to be coming over because there's no enrollment assigned to her. There's no enrolled profile attached to her. So what are we doing with contacts? So contacts are going to be placed in the I would like to participate but not become a member. So if you have someone that is wanting to be an adult volunteer, they will be a new or returning member, and they'll go through the background screening process. If you have someone that wants to be added but isn't going to be volunteering, does not have to be background checked, like livestock sale committee, maybe someone who helps out at the 4-H camp to, work on projects at the 4-H camp before the kids come. Those would be considered contacts, and they are not background checked. But unless they are already in an established family with somebody else that at one point had enrollment data tied to them, they won't be coming over automatically. So I just want to make sure that you understand that some contacts will have to be re-added, but some won't. Will custom reports carry over from 1.0 into 2.0? No. All the custom reports are going to be needed to be recreated in 2.0. This should not happen until after we migrate, okay, so that all the features are there. What I would recommend is after we migrate, open 1.0 and open 2.0, really look at the list of all of those reports that you have in 1.0 and decide if you even really need them. So many counties have reports, custom report lists that are a mile long because they at one point wanted to know which kids are named Sam. If you're not going to ever consider using one of those particular custom reports ever again, there's really no reason to add it into 2.0 and spend your time recreating it. So really think about what you want to recreate, then kind of look at how it's built in 1.0 and structure it to look the same in 2.0. And then standard reports, those are going to come over and be the same reports that are standard in 1.0. So any of the standard reports that you're currently using are going to come over and be in the standard reports for 2.0. Now, I know that a lot of counties have made custom reports that are all very commonly used. They're all really the same, but they're not considered standard. The developer is aware of this, and their idea is that they would add those commonly created custom reports into the standard reports, but it just isn't something that's going to happen immediately upon migration. So down the road, that is supposed to happen, but we can't have everything fixed in an instant the way that every state wants to have it fixed. So everybody does have to have some patience with some of these things. And I know it's frustrating. Trust me, I'm the one that's always the back and forth person with the developer and you guys trying to get everybody what they want. But there are some limitations, and it's unfortunate, but that's the reality. Will club advisors, I didn't proofread this very well. Will club advisors have to use a different app to see their club information? No. So similar to 1.0, club leaders would get into their club portion of the system when they go to log in. And that's how it's going to be in 2.0. It's not separate from 4HOnline. They'll have the ability to get into their club management section just from their account in 4HOnline. It's not anything separate. Currently, our club leaders can view members and they can download club rosters. They're working on setting up club level approval that we currently have in 1.0. It's just not set up just yet. So I recommend, if you normally have club leader approvals before they come to the county office for final approval, this year I would not recommend using that feature, just until we know for sure that everybody across the board has access to that if they want it. So don't use it until we know for sure that it's turned on for everybody and is working correctly. Let's see here. What's a unit? So a unit is just what we're calling clubs. For some reason, all the states that use it now, clubs falls under units. I don't know why they changed it. That's what it is. And then institution. This is just what the system's now calling state level. So for example, some of you might be institution level managers who in 1.0 were listed as state level managers. It's the same thing. They're just calling state managers institution managers, but county managers are still county managers. Club managers are still club managers. They just, like to throw curveballs at us sometimes and change the names of things. So I've seen the chat box light up a couple times, and with the last 10 minutes here, I'm going to let you guys ask me questions, and I will do my very, very best to answer them. Hopefully I have an answer for you, but if not, I've got a running list of questions that I have been working with the developer to get answered. So let me, I guess, look at the chat.
Yeah, so the very first question goes back to Pam, and it says, for the paper consent field, if a member is filling out their enrollment, do they fill in that field? I'm not sure where that was.
Yeah, I might need some clarification on that one specifically.
Rhonda says, families know to go to 4HOnline.com. Will this website still be the same?
Well, right now it's training.4honline.com, but I think what happens is they just take the training word out of it. Not super positive. It might be something like 4honline.v2.com or something. Once I get that official final, this is what it's going to be called website, I will make sure that you guys all have that.
Okay. Duplicate youth. So will the system notify a family if they already have a member by the name of Joe and they attempt to enter a new member, Joe, rather than an existing new? So like if names are close, but not identical. So like Joseph versus Joe.
Gotcha. I'm not sure if it would catch Joseph versus Joe. I can ask about that. I know that upon, when you go in and you say that you don't have an account at the very, very beginning, it catches, new families. But as far as what it does with members within those families, I'm not quite sure. They're going to be adding a merge feature, like I currently have access to, and the state level managers have access to in 1.0. So I'm hoping that if there is a problem, that we've at least not duplicated families, and if there are still duplicate members, we can easily merge them.
Okay. Can we block adults from enrolling themselves?
As just like in general from enrolling themselves, or block
I
them
would-
because they are in trouble?
That's a
Kaylee,
good.
Kaylee, I think what she means is if they're a new volunteer.
Okay.
If they're a new volunteer, can you block them? So I think we need to have a conversation with Jeff and Hannah about that, because I can see how some counties don't want anybody in the system until they have had their interview or done XYZ portion, because not all counties handle new volunteer management the same way. So that is a question that Jeff and Hannah and I have sort of been discussing as far as what's the best way to do that. And I think we're still kind of mulling that around. So I would love to have guidance for you on that right now. But with the way everybody does things differently across the state as for when they put adult volunteers into the system or let themselves in with 2.0, I'm not 100% sure that I can answer that question at this time.
And then how will you know what projects they're taking if they can't fill out? I'm assuming this goes back to the book information. If they can't fill out what books or that they need,
Well,
how
so
will you know
their
what
projects will still show up. You just won't be able to. You'll still be able to see their individual projects that they're enrolled in. You just won't be able to ask them if they need to order a beef resource handbook. So until they have fixed that for the very few, like 3 states that actually used that feature, you're going to have to come up with something in your office, maybe a Qualtrics form that we could create for everybody to use to help you with that. I'm sure there's ways around it for sure. And it might be as easy as a Qualtrics form if that's what your county's comfortable using to kind of capture those book orders.
Okay. Do the digital consent forms meet legal requirements for records and retention, or do we have to print hard copies?
As long as they're in the system, you don't have to print hard copies of the digital ones.
Okay.
If you have paper ones, those need to be added into the system. And I would recommend that, and I know that that's kind of a pain, but I would recommend that you at least keep that program year's hard copy ones, since you as a manager are certifying that it was received and that it was completed. If something comes back and says, well, we want proof that that's true and that you didn't just enter that in, you would still have the hard copy and the uploaded copy just in case. But check with Hannah about that and see if she cares how you guys do that records retention for if you have to do the paper copies.
Okay. Would the FFA portion keep track of QA attendance for the year, or will we still be able to do this?
So it is my understanding that quality assurance training can be tracked in both 4-H, the 4-H side and the FFA side. So we can go through as managers and mark who completed quality assurance. Now, how well that is going to integrate with the online, like the YQCA version, and how well that dumps the information into one of those portals, I don't want to say, because this year a lot of the information just wasn't transferring between systems for the YQCA into 4-H online. We'll be able to manually mark that those have been completed. But as far as taking the online training and hoping that it converts into the right system is not something I can promise.
Okay. Will the FFA members be able to enter their own information, or will we have to enter it on their behalf?
FFA members will be able to enter their own information because as soon as we turn that option on, at the very, very beginning, when they're asked if they want to do like Ohio for, like, it'll ask them at the very beginning if they want to do 4-H or if they're signing in for 4-H or FFA. It'll give them the option as soon as it's turned on to be usable.
Okay. The advisors will be required to take 2 additional trainings along with the policy 1.50 next year. Is there a way to track these additional trainings?
Yeah, we can add those additional trainings to your specific county. I can't add any of the trainings like videos or physical modules into the system. So for tracking purposes, yes, you can go through and you'll be able to mark what adults took the training and completed it. There's nothing in the system that will automatically track that for you because we're not using 4HOnline to host any actual training modules.
Right. Will cross-county forums have a location to stay with their member file throughout their membership, or will we still have to keep track of the paperwork in the office?
That needs to be kept track of in the office.
Okay.
And I did go through, and if I haven't done it already, I know that I can go through and add the resident county on there as a manager only view so that you guys can put in specifically what their resident county is as well. I know somebody had asked about that before. Yes, I either already did it or it's on my list of to-dos.
Okay. Is there a way to add county only projects?
Yes. So county only projects, I'm working with the developers now to get the county only projects set up with different project aliases, but that will not happen until the system is live. So if we add them now, that is one thing that doesn't like transfer over during the process. So as soon as it's live and while the system is down and I'm working on it to get it completely ready for you guys in those first 2 weeks of November, that's when that sort of functionality turns on.
Okay. The wording that says I would like to participate but not become a member in 4-H for adult members specifically, is there a way to change that wording?
Nope.
Okay.
Unfortunately, yeah. Nope.
Because we just know that some will get confused with member being a youth member and whatnot.
Correct. Yep.
Are we going to have access to 1.0 after the migration so we can use it as a
Yes.
reference?
Everybody will have inactive profiles, but you will have access for at least a year to the database.
Okay. Can club leaders send emails to their members in their club through 4HOnline?
They will be able to do that through a broadcast tab that is within their club management area.
Okay. How can club advisors get access to all of their kids in their club if their club is not a primary club? Can there
Still haven't heard back on that.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if there a report can be created for that. But.
There is a report for it that can be created theoretically in 1.0, but it never pulls correctly. So I'm hoping that that changes with 2.0 if they can't change the ability to see those members. But that's on my list of questions that are still kind of hanging out there from the developer that haven't been answered for me yet.
Okay. And then Judy's like, this is going to happen November 1st, as in like 10 days. And she's like, I have families that are trying to re-enroll for this or for the upcoming year.
They
And
need to wait.
need to wait. Yeah, because it won't be live till November 16th, correct?
Yeah, it's going to be shut down for the first 2 weeks to make sure that everything looks good and works perfectly for you guys. And I say perfectly loosely, but I need to make sure in those first 2 weeks that it is migrated and that everything works right before you give it to your families to start using. So yeah, unfortunately, sorry.
3 last questions here. So will the projects they took last year show up in the 2.0 version?
If it shows up in their enrollment history now, it'll show up in their enrollment history when they move into 2.0.
Okay.
They will not be able to just say that they want to continue taking that project now. So it won't show up that way. It will only show up it'll just show up on the enrollment history. Everybody still has to intentionally choose what projects they take now.
Okay. Does this new system work with the fair entry?
Yes.
Okay. When running reports specifically for QA, will we be able to pull information from the FFA module?
Yes, you'll have reports there as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that is all of them.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate everybody coming and asking their questions. I'm still working on getting some of those lingering ones answered, and I know that more and more come up as people start actively getting into the training database and using it more. So send them at me, and I'm gonna keep trying to get them answered for you.
One more. Will the
Oh,
animal information for FFA members be able to be pulled into fair entry?
supposed to be. But I don't manage fair entry and have no idea how to manage fair entry. And it's supposed to be, but I can't like coordinate. I can't coordinate them together. And that's all something that happens on the developer side. So if it's not working, it's not anything that we're doing wrong, if that makes sense. It's something that's wrong at the developer side.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. Let me know if you have any questions, and I'm off to give another presentation.
Thanks, guys.
Fun. Thanks.